Melissa grew up with a parent who was a foster parent, so it isn't surprising that part of the journey that she and Vanessa embarked upon when thinking about creating their family included the idea of fostering and potentially fostering to adopt. But beyond that, there were so many other levels and layers to how they created the family that they have now. It's the two of them and their son, Julian, who's just a couple of months old. But they've had so many lived experiences on this pathway, and they're not finished yet. So you definitely are going to love my conversation today with Melissa about their family creation pathway. Welcome to the Becoming Baby Ready podcast, your podcast for queer family planning. My name is Sam, and throughout this podcast, you'll hear me have conversations with professionals who work alongside people who want to start and grow their families, as well as parents of intentionally created families. Everyone I speak to identifies as being part of the 2S LGBTQIA+ community. This is your opportunity to learn answers to questions you didn't even know you had. Welcome, everyone. This afternoon, I have the opportunity to be chatting with Melissa. Welcome, Melissa. I am so glad that you're here. Please tell everyone who you are and about the members of your family.
Perfect. It's so good to be here. My name is Melissa Torres, and I'm 39 years old. I am married to my beautiful wife, Vanessa. We have been married since 2022, been together since officially, I guess, very end of 2017, beginning of 2018. And then we have a brand new baby. His name is Julian, and he was born on November 28th of 2025. So that's pretty much us. Oh, and we have a 15-year-old dog. She's 15 and a half, and her name is Paisley. She's about 4.5 pounds, and she's still getting on.
Oh, and she and Julian are the best of friends already, right?
They are. She's a little blind, and they do sit together sometimes on tummy time. He came out bigger than her.
Oh,
So, but she stepped on his back one day, but we weren't super concerned because she's only 4 pounds. So,
there you
but
go. Oh my
it's nice.
gosh.
She's also deaf, so she's not worried about the crying. She never wakes up when he's up in the night, and so she's living the good life still.
Excellent. I love that. I love that. So let's go back to you and Vanessa, end of 2017, beginning of 2018. How did you meet?
So we met on Tinder.
As you do.
Yeah. It was kind of an interesting time for me. So I grew up, just a little bit of a backstory, in a very small town in Texas. I was very into the evangelical faith. I was working at the church. I volunteered at the church. So like very, very deep in. When I turned 30, I kind of was going through just a lot of stuff. I wasn't in my life where I thought, I would be at 30. I was still single. I didn't have kids. I've always wanted kids. Growing up in a small town, I think it's just you assume that you'll get married at like 18 to 20 and then start popping kids out immediately and
Yep.
go to church. Or that's my small town
Right.
experience in the South. I'm in Texas, like I said. So, I just kind of went through a lot of stuff. My 30th year, I lost about 75 pounds, just kind of trying to make myself, feel better, to be in a better space and really just begin to love myself. With that came a lot of like discoveries in other areas of my life. And so when I was about 31 and a half, so it was like in December, I decided, after talking to one of my friends, that maybe I should switch over my Tinder to Girl Tender. So that was interesting. And my first experience with like online dating in general, and then also with women. So I switched it over. There was a few profiles that, I of course swiped right, whatever. But I remember being really taken with Vanessa's. It was not over the top. It was not very informational. It was just photos. She had like a little blip with her Snapchat and basically saying, if you're interested in like a third, like I'm not interested. And that was it. like nothing else. So, but something about her pictures and just it just felt really familiar to me.
Okay.
Um, so I swiped right and then I waited and she, we matched. So I added her on Snapchat and nothing happened. She didn't reach out. So I'm like, I don't know
Wow.
what I'm doing. I think she had been burned a lot in the past, and I
Okay,
think
fair.
tricked a lot too, by people trying to bring people into their relationship with their boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she was just kind of on the end of like her online dating journey. But then one day I reached out. I'm like, we should grab a drink. We met that night. We stayed up the whole night talking. It felt amazing. She was from Waco, which is a little bit of a bigger town, but she felt very small town to me, which felt very safe at the time, with all the
Right.
changes that were, you know, coming in my life. And truly, I was not ever in a position to be around queer couples, especially not queer families. You were kind of taught that, and of course, I knew at 30, like this wasn't true, but it's sort of that this is how I grew up, that people who are in queer relationships are on like the fringe of society. They're not family people. They're single, they're promiscuous. And she had like a family that she was close to, and she just felt so safe.
Yeah.
And so really we never stopped talking after that. And I really hate to say that we U-hauled and like feed into the stereotype, but we
Right.
literally did. So we met.
Right. It
it
happened because
it
it
happened.
feels right.
Yeah.
Right.
Finally, and I
Yes.
was 31. And so we met December 15th. I was moved into Waco like with her in the beginning of February of 2018. So very
Okay.
fast. I was kind of on the outs, I think, with just my life, everything that was going on, working at the church. Like I was going through a big deconstruction, with my faith. She was going through a lot of changes personally, just kind of like growing up and dealing with some of the things that she had done as a young 20 something.
Mm-hmm.
So we were both in like a really important growing phase. And I think not necessarily it's the best time to get into a serious relationship, but I do think it worked beautifully for us. We kind
Mm-hmm.
of went on these individual healing journeys and supported each other through that. And it kind of brought us closer together. So the next 2 years, we just really spent getting to know each other, getting to know ourselves. I kind of came into myself as like this person who isn't religious and just dealt with a lot of, I mean, I'll just say religious trauma that, I grew up with, and
Right.
it was a lot. But as far as kids go, I think we had very different ideas on if we wanted kids, and all of that stuff, just based on our upbringing, I think. And she is okay if I share this. We talked about it and
You did
confirmed
talk
it.
about
But
it. Okay. Thank you.
so I have always wanted to be a mom. Like I said, I thought I would be a mom super early. I thought I would have like 2 to 3 to 5 kids. I mean, there was really no limit. My mom loves children. She was a foster parent for many years. She works with children. I work with children. Like we just love children. And
Yes.
so I spent a great deal of my 20s just devastated, if I'm being honest, watching every single person that I knew get married and have the life that I thought I was going to have and have children. I couldn't make it through baby announcements or Facebook posts or weddings or baby showers without excusing myself to the bathroom to
Yeah.
like cry about it. So that was kind of my experience. When I
You felt
turned
like you
30, I
were
think
missing out.
for sure. Yeah. And to be 30, you always hear like this time clock. And when you live to me, in a small town in the South, it really is like rare for people to start parenting over 30. I
Right.
mean,
Okay.
people that I went to school with, they've got teenagers now. So, and
Sure.
I have a 2-month old. So, they might do their second round with their second spouse around now, but
Okay.
it's not
Right.
the original.
Right.
But for me, I did a lot of healing, even in that, like where I didn't feel so sensitive. And I just knew like if I'm not meant to be a mother, then I think I know I can find happiness in whatever journey like life takes me. So that was a big thing for me, just to let go of all of that. And that was kind of done in those 2 years of our first of our relationship. So for Vanessa, she wanted kids when she was little. She wanted a whole house full of boys. But then I think as she got older, it was like, maybe I don't. Maybe I don't want kids. I think it's a really heavy thing to maybe not be as happy with how you were raised and the ways that some of the adults around you made you feel, and then to worry about how to raise a child to not feel that way. And so I
Right.
think without having a partner that you feel comfortable, being a parent with, and without really knowing how it will work, I think she just kind of was like late teens, early 20s thinking like maybe I don't think I do want that.
Yeah.
As soon as we met, we started having these conversations, and she seemed to be very originally like, no, I don't think I want to have kids. And then like very soon after, it's like, I think I would want to have kids with somebody like you. And then it just kind of like went from there. But for us, this is where I guess, barriers to having children as a queer couple came in, because financially it felt like, okay, you have to be either like super fertile where like you can buy $1,000 vial of sperm and get pregnant first time, or you
Okay.
have to have the money to continue on that journey, or you have to be someone who knows a donor that's willing to just come to you and like keep doing it over and over.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for us, a lot of our journey was really a financial barrier, and something that we didn't know if we would be able to get past. Because when I would see lesbian couples who have done reciprocal IVF or IVF, I'm like, okay, these people are rich. They're like have really good jobs. They're just in a different spot than we have. Good jobs, but they're not jobs where we're making hundreds of thousands of dollars.
To have the disposable income to let that happen, right?
Yes, for
Yeah,
30,000 or whatever.
exactly.
So it was something we didn't really even explore, I would say. There's some Facebook groups which are super sketchy, and we thought about it.
And I encourage people to be very careful if they are listening and they're
Yes.
thinking Facebook groups. No,
Yeah.
no,
No, no,
no,
if
no.
you're in it, you'll know. It's weird. Because we do get in some,
Yeah.
especially all the ones wanting natural, and they're like, natural works better, and it's like, no, creeps.
Yeah, exactly.
So we did start like testing ovulation and thinking like, okay, maybe, whatever. But I have had suspicions that probably if I was with someone who had readily available sperm, that I still wouldn't have had an easy go at getting pregnant. Just,
Okay.
PCOS, very irregular periods, a lot of hormonal issues, just a lot of pain. I mean, just it was a lot. And so I kind of
Okay.
thought, how can we save up 1,000, get some, sperm bank and mail it here just for one shot. And that was really kind of what stopped us. So around, I would say, fall of 2019, we went to a meeting, like an orientation to learn about foster care. Like I said, my mom was a foster parent
Right.
for a at this point, many years later, it's about 20 years. At that point, I guess 15. We have a brother that was adopted through foster care. I lived with her on and off during some of the periods of that. So I was very familiar with it. And being raised in a very religious environment too, there was a lot of foster families in my church as well.
Okay.
And so that is something that has always been close to my heart, but not in a sense, this is how we were going to become parents. But I
Okay.
think we had sort of not given up the idea of being parents, but sort of like, okay, financially, this isn't something that makes sense for us right now, but we have a lot of love to give. We had really come into our relationship, I would say, like it was very stable. We were just completely different people than we were when we met. We had done so much growing, and we just had a lot of love, I think, to give. And so we met, at the little orientation, and that was fall 2019, I think. And of course, the holidays come, so we were kind of just waiting. And then in 2020, early, Vanessa met a guy at work. He started working at her job and he was a really nice guy. And they kind of became work friends. So he shared that he was going to be a donor for, I can't remember if it was his sister or his like just some friends that he knew, another lesbian couple, and that they had ended up getting divorced instead. So it never really like panned out.
Right.
But he was full Puerto Rican. Vanessa's half Puerto Rican, and it just seemed like a perfect fit. And this is the
Hmm.
first time that it had ever really happened where we met someone and he was interested in potentially becoming a donor for us. And so we were like, okay, let's get serious. And we started buying like ovulation tests and really just trying to see who might be a better fit. I suspected it was probably her.
Hmm.
She is younger than me. She does have irregular periods, but nothing like what I was kind of experiencing. And so that was like January, February, and then March 2020 hit. The world fell apart
Hmm.
and her job closed immediately forever. He moved back like states somewhere else
Wow.
and everything just kind of like blew up, I mean, worldwide, but also just for us personally with this like journey that we thought we were going to go on.
Right.
It just ended. And so we were like, okay. At that time, we were just concerned like, what's happening? What is COVID-19? What are we going to do? She was on unemployment, like everything was just a mess. My job closed, but then we opened back up and all of this. And so, things kind of got back to normal a little bit. I mean, it was Texas, so nobody was really taking things seriously, if I'm being honest. Jobs opened back up, everything felt semi-normal-ish for both of us. She was still not working, but we decided that, hey, we've always wanted to not live here in Waco. Let's move to Austin. It's a little bit more liberal, we
Hmm.
thought. It is, but not like as much as we thought. But
Right.
so I scoured, Indeed. I found what I thought was going to be the perfect fit for a job. And she was still on employment. So that really helped us. Like we could just kind of go. So we shut our life down in Waco. We moved to Austin. The sperm donation and all of that, like it was just long gone at that point. We just
Right.
kind of moved forward. And then I finished out 2020 at my new job. It was a pretty stressful, horrible work environment, but eventually Vanessa ended up getting a job at that place just so that she could have a job and kind of continue to look in her career field
Right.
for something else that she wanted to do. And then we decided that we would kind of revisit the foster care journey. So I ended up quitting that job primarily just for my own mental health, but also because it didn't allow me any time for foster care trainings and things like that. So end of 2021 all the way to like May of 2022, we worked on getting our foster license. We set up, our foster room. We had people in and out of our homes. We had home study. It's a lot of work to do all of that. But
Of
we
course.
ended up doing foster to adopt. Our primary goal, of course, was always reunification. I don't think we ever
Right.
meant this as this is our way to become a parent because we didn't really know. Most of my mom's kids have either gone home or gone to adoptive families, but, we knew there was a chance. So we got licensed in May of 2022, and we were hoping we kind of went from 0 to 18. We didn't really have, that. I think it's really important when you're a foster parent, I mean, to know your limitations, but also to understand like not every child that is in the system, of course, is a baby. And
Right.
there are so many kids. And one thing that we kind of thought maybe we would be good at is, especially in Texas, providing a safe space for foster youth coming out or,
Hmm.
just any kind of thing that they were experiencing. I mean, I've heard of people removing their own children because they're queer or whatever. And so just
Yes.
being a safe space for children that primarily what I see here in Texas is Christian foster families, and they absolutely like force the children to go to church and things like that. And so those would not be a safe space for all foster children, depending
Right.
on where they came from, and whatever else. But I feel like for us, we didn't have that. We want a baby only. We want this or that because
Okay.
genuinely this was just a journey for us, like to see maybe how we parented together, but how we handled, all of this. And then just we had space, we had love, we had a good routine in our own lives, and we felt like we could provide experiences for children who needed them. And so we got a couple of different calls. We had one placement that, I wouldn't share, of course, any
No.
details, but it was a really hard placement. It kind of really opened our eyes to the fact that when placing children, CPS doesn't always look at what's best for the children. I think a two mom home for these children was not what they needed. They really needed a man, maybe even two.
Yeah.
And it would have just been so much better for them. And I think living in an apartment isn't great for some children who need a safe space to run when they're angry. And there is no safe space to run when you don't have a yard, and things like that. So
Sure.
being out on the loose in public can get really difficult and scary. And so especially with a first time foster family who had never been parents of any kind.
Right.
We just were like, maybe this wasn't the placement. They ended up going with family, and we took a couple of months off to just kind of regroup. I did notice through it all, it was very stressful and heartbreaking, that it drew us closer together. And so we were like, okay, let's try it again. We had a placement for a year and a half, and that
Okay.
was um, probably one of the most beautiful experiences that, Vanessa and I have had together. And um, it really changed us. It changed our relationship. I mean, I think for her, it really solidified, like, okay, I want to be a parent no matter what. Whereas before we were kind of just like, it's not going to happen financially, this or this excuse or that. And they're good reasons, but they were also just, we were easily allowing these things to kind of stop us. But
Okay.
after this experience, I think it was just like, no, we would like really be amazing parents together. And
Yeah.
foster care can also feel like a part-time job. And somehow we both have full-time jobs and this part-time job. The children is not the part-time, it's the paperwork and the doctors and the people in and out of your home. And
Right.
I mean, you have to do a weekly summary, what each child did, and a clothing inventory. And so there is a lot of a 9-page report every time you go to the doctor.
Okay.
Yeah,
It
and
is,
then
it's a
scan
lot to take on.
all of that stuff in every month to your caseworker. And so that on top of, for us, it was really important to keep, their family informed. We created an email address. We sent tons of photos and a weekly update, and really just wanted them to know these are your children. We never referred to them as, we went home or whatever. I was very particular. We went to the house. Your children did this week. Your son had a great week at school, so
Right.
we really learned so much about supporting the whole family. And, there was a lot of heartache through the journey because at one point, it was sort of moving in the direction of adoption, we thought, until it wasn't. And, there's a lot to kind of process with that. But really, the only thing that we could do was be, number one, just thankful that they were going home with the family that they, were born to, that they should have been with. And number two, that, steps were being taken and everything was like being surpassed, right? Like all of the stuff CPS said that needed to happen was happening. And then number three, just that CPS did allow us, because I've heard nightmare stories, a really long transition. I would say from January all the way to May, we were
Wow.
transitioning them home, which is almost unheard of. And so it started with longer visits, unsupervised, then overnights. And, I've heard of people just getting 2 hours notice, Um,
That would be so
so
hard on the heart.
yeah, I think it was almost harder, like the long drawn out
Sure.
for
Sure.
us, but for the kids and just for the trauma of it all, they had already been traumatized being removed once, but then we were all they knew for a year and a half, then just
Yeah.
immediately us disappearing would have also been traumatic. And
Right.
so we were really able to, I remember there was a dance recital that was sort of our final thing. And we invited the family and they came, and like it was really, really hard because like we didn't take any photos with the kids. We just put all the attention on them. And it was so special. And I'm so glad that we did it. But I remember that like inside, I was just like heartbroken because I knew that was it. That was the final thing. CPS was like, okay, let's stay through the recital because, they had been preparing for the whole,
Right.
6 months or whatever. But it really taught me a lot just about like foster care isn't about the foster parents becoming parents. It's always should be about the kids, what's best for them. And in those moments that felt really hard, we knew that we were doing what was best for them, what was best for their future and their family as well. So that ended like on a beautiful note, but just personally, I don't think we had it in us to continue. I know there's a lot of families out there that do.
Yeah, I fully get what you're saying. I have so much respect for the people who can do it and do it repeatedly because I don't know that I have the capacity. And maybe I do and I've just never tried because I
Yeah,
haven't gone the route you've gone, but I just, yeah,
it
it's a
was
lot.
hard. And I think we're so happy. We saw them a few times after they left, got a
Oh,
few
good.
updates. I think, after that it kind of stopped and that's totally fine, but I'm so thankful for what we did get.
Mhm.
And I feel really proud of, the experience that we had. And a lot of it was hard. In Texas, you can, after a year, you can intervene, you can get your own lawyer and you can fight the family. We just felt that wasn't something we would ever want to do. And in this case, sometimes, the system does fail children. We know that. But in this case, I think there would have been a chance for us to win. And that would
Mhm.
have been the wrong thing to do because
Mhm.
seeing how it played out just 6 months later, it was really beautiful and they're exactly where they need to be. So
Hold on for just a moment. We'll be right back. You know you want to start a family, but you're really not sure where to start, what questions to ask, who is your best person to connect with. Well, I would say that the best person to connect with is Sam from Baby Ready. We have connections and resources, answers to questions, and we have been helping support families for over 25 years. So when you are looking to start the process of creating the family of your dreams, look no further than Baby Ready. You can learn more about the services we offer and the places you can meet us in person at www.babyready.info.
for us, we just had to stop because
Right.
it
Yeah.
was just, and I think now Vanessa's been talking about it. Do you think we would do it again? And I think maybe if we have our kids and that we're not too old, maybe we would. My mom did it all the way up to like 62 maybe. And it was great for her as well. So maybe sometime we'll revisit it. It really was beautiful, but I think it opened us up to the fact that we want to be parents. And we didn't feel comfortable this being our route to parenthood just because we were afraid our feelings and our desires to be parents would get in the way of like what was actually best for children
Yep.
in the system. And so we kind of left the foster care world.
Right.
Um, and we let, our agency know, and we were like, we're going to pursue fertility treatments. At that point, Vanessa found a Facebook group, and this is where, our real story kind of kicks up. This was May of 2024. Um, yes, May of 2024. We made a couple appointments with fertility doctor, and our intention at that time was to see who might be healthier to carry. We thought about potentially doing an IUI through just a regular OB. They tend to be cheaper down here than
Okay.
doing it like at a fertility clinic.
Mhm.
But we wanted to go to the fertility clinic to get assessed and do all the stuff there. In Texas, your insurance has to cover it counts as like a specialty visit. So your insurance has to cover all the testing leading up to fertility treatments, but it's not required to cover fertility treatments. And
Okay.
there are maybe about 5 states that they are mandated to cover fertility treatments. Those are the places to live if you're looking to move. That's where you'd want to go because even you can buy on the marketplace their insurance, even not through your employer, and you'll get fertility insurance.
Okay.
So that is not for us, but we did have the ability to go and get tested. So we did an HSG, we did all of the genetic work, we did all of they did an ultrasound to check, our follicles and, all of that stuff. And everything worked out well. We both have PCOS, so we had high egg count. Doesn't mean that it's going to be quality eggs, but at least I was genuinely worried because you hear about the clock ticking,
Of
and I'm
course.
like, do I have any eggs in there like
Yeah.
left, or am I like, we just
Yeah.
didn't know because I was
No.
38 at that point. So, um, everything tested out well, and things kind of happened really fast for us. So we ended up getting in a Facebook group that talked about a lot of jobs that offer fertility insurance. And the only places that I had ever heard of were like Starbucks. You always hear people saying like, I did Starbucks for IVF and this and that. And it wasn't going to work for us because we both needed full-time income. That wasn't, I mean, I don't know what they make at Starbucks, but the hours may not be full time. I've always heard that their insurance is very expensive. So a lot of your check is going just towards that. So
Yeah.
it didn't really seem like it would be a good fit for us. But I had no idea the world that is out there of jobs that cover fertility treatments. So Vanessa's
Good to
like,
know.
let me just try. Let me just try. And I don't like change. I like stability. She'd been
Right.
at her job, our insurance was through her job. I made more money than her, so it made most sense. And this is what I always tell people, whatever works for you. Ideally, the person who needs the fertility, treatments would be the one to pick up the insurance. But in our case, we both have eggs, and, we both have the uterus. So we both wanted to do it.
Hmm.
In the other cases, if you've got the uterus and your partner has the sperm, then ideally you would get the insurance. But either
Hmm.
way, it's still going to be cheaper than paying out of pocket. But we got in this group. We found a list of about 6 jobs that we thought, she could get. Entry level, definitely a pay cut. But she applied to all of them. She even talked to her job. She reached out to her job, like, hey, is there a way that you can cover this? They basically said no. It's not a needed thing. We try to keep insurance low for the whole company. And there are a lot of older people that work there, a lot of men. So we knew that she was going to have to kind of move on. Everybody was aware of it. And so she ended up getting a job in a warehouse at a much lower pay rate, but the insurance was really affordable and it was really good insurance. That's the good thing about some of these corporations
Yep.
is, your copays are going to be low, your deductibles low. And so we got what I would consider to be the best of the best fertility insurance, and we just kind of went wild with it. So it's called
Excellent.
Progeny. Um,
Yes.
and it is like we just couldn't believe it. Like when I think back and I'm like, we both have embryos on ice. We both have this. Like we're able, it doesn't feel real. But we started our process after that. We didn't have to pay anything up front. So
Wow.
we each walked into what we were quoted self-pay $17,000 procedures. They didn't even have my credit card number at the clinic. So we just
Hmm.
went in, we did every single thing. It included PGTA testing, it included, storage for our embryos, storage for our sperm. It included buying the sperm. We got 4 vials. It included, everything that you could possibly imagine was included in there, and we didn't have to pay a penny of it up front. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay. So you said you've both got embryos on ice.
Yeah.
So I have two questions then. First of all, where'd you get the sperm? And did you just catalog shop until you found somebody that was a good man? Since Vanessa's not working with a Puerto Rican man that she can get sperm from anymore, where'd you get the sperm? And then you both decided you wanted to harvest eggs. Is that because you both wanted to carry, or you just wanted to have that experience? Or yeah, so those are my questions. What do we do
Okay.
now?
So, and it was a long process. We looked at and now we had to go back because originally we were looking for donor sperm while she was looking for the jobs. So we found a donor that we really liked, and I'll kind of talk about how we picked. So we had a couple of, things that were deal breakers, I guess.
Yep.
So number one, we went through a sperm bank. I wish we could afford something like Seed Scout. That was not obviously with our insurance, and
Mhm.
it is quite expensive.
Mhm.
And we're going to do, I can talk about that in a minute, but just anything that we can to help our child who's going to be donor conceived kind of work through that.
Right.
But we did use a sperm bank, which, can sometimes be iffy on, if they kind of keep to their own ethics and what they say they're going to do. But
But you have a
we
beautiful baby as a
we
result.
do, yes.
So,
So we, number one, would not even consider anyone who wasn't open to being identified at 18
okay.
for the child. So that was the first filter. So we didn't even look at profiles of anybody else. Number two, we made sure that we joined all of the websites that we were looking at, which you can find free codes for some of them, but some of them we ended up having to pay. But it is unreal. I thought like if a baby's cute or a toddler's cute, that equals like attractive adult, or that you can kind of gauge what they might look like.
Mhm.
And that is just not the
No,
case.
no.
So we were kind of floored, if I'm being honest. Like some of the pictures, once we were able to see what they looked like as adults, and they look very different. So we had seen a baby picture of someone who looked similar to Vanessa, and we're like, oh, that might work, and then as an adult, I was like, oh, like that's not
Mhm.
the same at all, So I think it's really important for people to, look at the adult. And somebody said, "Oh, that's really shallow." And I'm like, I have to choose someone to be my child's like 50% of my child's DNA. I'm
Mhm.
going to pick someone who I find attractive. I don't,
Mhm.
maybe it's shallow, but we don't get a lot of like I want a baby that's half me, half her. That's just not a thing. That's something that, as a queer couple, you just kind of have to deal with and let go of and just kind of work through those feelings. It is like something that I think you grieve, even
Mhm.
though realistically, it's never going to happen. It couldn't happen, but
Yeah.
so yeah, we're gonna do find the most attractive person with the best qualities and the most healthy person we can find. So we looked at all the adult photos, and then that was really the only thing that oh, and the last thing that we filtered out for was either of our genetic conditions. So I
Mhm.
carry, I'm a carrier for three different gene mutations, I guess you would
Mhm.
say. And Vanessa has one. And so we filtered out for all of those so we could use the donor for both of us.
Okay.
And then from there, I mean, we went through, we found people that we thought were physically attractive, and then we went through all of their health information. So we cut out, I'm half Mexican, and so we were kind of hoping to find someone either, Mexican or Puerto Rican
Mhm.
for either one of our, ethnicities. But a lot of the what I saw, just the people who had, were Mexican, they were very unhealthy, or they had very unhealthy families, which is kind of what I see in my own family as well. And
Right.
so that just ended up not working out for us. And for her, we ended up finding a fully Puerto Rican, like he was full Puerto Rican. So that was amazing. So our kids can kind of have that shared
Well, it's a shared genetic
cultural.
well, yes, cultural, but and genetic connection, right? They are, if you use the same donor for both children, then you would have two children that are biologically at least half siblings,
Yes.
which is a big piece that a lot of us look for too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's strange, I think, thinking about the only biological connection being through the donor, but
Hmm.
it was really important for us. So we didn't look at, I know a lot of people think about, and originally we kind of did look at, people who might look like her, might look like me, or whatever. But it ended up just being more important that they had really good health history in
Yeah.
their family as well. So our donor ended up, I mean, everybody was, we struggle, both of us have struggled, most of our lives with weight,
Hmm.
as do our families. And so that was really important to us too. It might kind of fall on that other like shallow spectrum that people are talking about. But for us, if we can give our child a chance to not struggle with that, like that's really important for us. And a lot of it is lifestyle, but it's also genetics,
Sure.
And so he has a very healthy family. He has good vision. I have terrible vision. He has great teeth, so he really just had a lot of characteristics. He has beautiful curly hair, and a lot of things, that we thought were really important when selecting. And we just
Hmm.
kind of narrowed it down little by little on every
Mhm.
single site, and then we put them all together, and it took us weeks. I mean, it
Oh,
was quite the
yes,
undertaking.
for sure.
And we always had a pull towards this specific one, but we wanted to still go through every single one. It was really important that we found ones who had a good reason for wanting to do sperm donation.
Yeah.
Some of them will say, money, I need money. And I'm like, I'm not going to tell my child that, even though
Right.
we all know it's true.
You're right.
But
Yes.
they write the little letters, and we found his to be charming and interesting, and he's got a thing for flamingos, like a connection to flamingos or whatever. And it's just quirky, and like I think Julian will love to, read about him one day.
Hmm.
So we printed off everything there is, every photo. We, have everything in a book for him. So it's something that we just want to be really, really open about where he comes from, and, who his biological, I guess, father is. I mean, that's something we don't have any sort of offense to
To
that. I mean,
determine.
of course, he's
Okay.
not a dad, but
Yeah.
he's biologically, he is like a biological father. He's not like raising him or a part of his life or anything like that. But
Hmm.
I think we will just kind of take the lead, from him on how he wants to refer to our donor. And that's something I've learned in a donor conceived Facebook group, is a lot about calling the donor, the parent's donor. It's not the child's donor. The child
Hmm.
didn't have a donor, we had the donor.
Right.
And so just kind of being open, like we were with foster care. If we had adopted through foster care, having a lot of uncomfortable conversations that might make us feel like, oh,
Yeah.
worried or insecure, I guess, in our parenting. But we plan to kind of do that with him as well,
Sure.
however he feels comfortable. But that's just kind of how we plan to, I guess, minimize maybe the harm from using a sperm bank or not knowing how many siblings there will be out there, and
Hmm.
trying to find them, trying to make relationships where we can. Hopefully we'll find the donor. I know a lot of people have Facebook groups with their donor,
Hmm.
even though the kids aren't 18. He was a new donor. I have yet to find anyone who has used
Okay.
him. But I'm in a group for the sperm bank, and people put, you could see who the like hot donors are, I guess. Like
Yes.
they're always the same ones. And I'm like, thank God we didn't use whoever that is. But
Right.
what's wrong with our guy? Like he was great. But
Right.
I haven't seen anybody. So maybe one day
Yes.
we'll find, or maybe he'll quit and then we don't have to worry about, family numbers.
Maybe that and yeah.
I don't know. So that's kind of how we chose, and we feel really solid in the decision, and it's good because he looks just like him.
Well, that's good. Yeah, see, there's a
I'm like,
reason.
wow,
There's a
my
reason why
genes
you did.
really just kind of like flopped out there, didn't they? And we knew every ultrasound, we knew, we could tell already.
There.
But he's adorable.
Oh, absolutely. How did you decide whose uterus you were using?
So that was kind of a sad part of the story. That's where we hit a hiccup. I think we have had a really easygoing journey, and sometimes I do feel guilty. We have the TikTok, and so a lot of the people around us are, having infertility issues, and the people that follow us, especially in the beginning, we were following and they were following us, and so we feel like sort of online friends. And it's really hard because I think our journey has felt really simple at times. I mean, we went to the fertility clinic in May of 2024 for the first time. We started all of this stuff in September, all the testing. We had to wait for our periods, which, like I said, are irregular. So it was all
Mhm.
the way until November until we did egg retrievals. And then Vanessa got pregnant, first transfer in March of 2025. So, but in between there, so like I said, I have had, weight issues. I have lost about 60 pounds since May. But before that, I mean, we were working to remove toxins and all the things that they say you need to work on to up your fertility. We were doing, a low inflammation diet and things like that, taking all the supplements, spending hundreds, I don't even know, on supplements, like everything that you could think of, you
Yes.
know, no plastic, all glass, like just really on this non-toxic journey, which we're still on now that we have a baby. But, we thought it was going well. Like they never can tell, right? When you're doing your ultrasounds, everything looked good. I ended up getting at 38, 27 eggs. 17 were mature. Yeah.
Holy jumping.
15, it goes down, much down, much lower.
Sure, sure, but still, that's a
15,
lot to start with.
yeah, it really was. I was like, oh, okay. 15 fertilized, and I had 6 blasts at day 6 when they froze, and then they
Okay.
sent those 6 for testing, and 3 were euploid, which I mean, at my age, like half being euploid, like I was beyond because I just knew it was going to come back 0.
Right.
Um,
Yes. Yeah.
It's a very scary process going through all of that, but it just felt like perfect. I had 1 boy, which is Julian, and
Yes.
2 girl embryos, and they're still frozen. But I think we're probably going to, be done with mine soon. Because they do, since we're 2 women, they don't let us store our embryos together. So we pay double every month, which is about $160. Yeah. So that stinks. But it is what it is. So Vanessa actually did her retrieval. So the day, I think I did mine on a Friday. Monday, she started her period and started stems. And so she did hers 2 weeks to the day after I did mine.
Hmm.
And her retrieval was on Black Friday of 2024. And Julian's birthday is actually Black Friday of 2025.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, it was a quick turnaround.
Yeah.
So she did hers, very similar numbers. She had 32 eggs, 19 mature, and 17 fertilized. She also had 6 blasts, which for her age, that shocked me a little bit that we went from 17 fertilized down to 6.
Mm-hmm.
But she got 5 euploid and 1 level mosaic. So that one could technically also be used. So her rate of euploid was much higher than mine.
Right. Right.
So
Still.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So we've got 7 embryos on ice right now, 5 of hers, 2 of mine. And we plan to, yeah, transfer a girl next. But I originally was going to carry first. So it's never been Vanessa's dream to carry. And I think she is more, I guess, what people would call masculine. And it's funny because when you're pregnant, I think there's no clothes out there that fit. She's used to wearing men's clothes, and she can't wear sweatpants to work and whatever. So she was looking very feminine. She had to wear a lot of
Yeah.
my jeans. And so recently, she yesterday got dressed, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like the old you. It's so cute.
There you
I
go.
miss you. I love you both, but I mean, she just felt like her again, and that was
Right.
really, really nice to see. But yeah, so I was going to carry first, mostly because I'm older, and we decided she would maybe want to carry because I think not being able to have a child that's half her, half me, and coupled with we have this incredible insurance where we don't pay anything up front and we don't really pay a ton of money anyway. Our out-of-pocket max for the whole year would have been 6,000. So that's the max that we could have
Wow.
paid for all of our stuff. And then the progeny actually does no interest payment plans. So they'll set that up for you. And so it's beautiful. Like if
It
anybody is
is.
like, this can't happen for me, it can happen for you. I mean, she had to work in a warehouse for a few months, but it was so worth it. We took a little bit of a pay cut. And then, what ended up happening was her old job offered her a raise. She got like something like $11 an hour more than what she was making when she left her job. So we
Okay.
were able to use that raise to pay Cobra, which is here in the US, like if you leave your job and you still need insurance, they have to still cover you, but it takes
Okay.
away the employer portion. So it's usually quite expensive. So we used that pay raise to pay for the Cobra so we could keep our fertility insurance. And that just expired in the end of 2025. So, like I said, initially I was going to carry, I'm older, and we just thought we both want to carry now because she was kind of interested in thinking, like, how beautiful would it be if she carried my embryo and I carried hers?
Right.
I think if we'd only had one opportunity, one of us could do an egg retrieval, then I would have for sure carried. But since we were both able to do it, I'm thinking, like, this is the perfect thing. She wanted to carry together. I was open to it,
Okay.
but I was like, two babies is cool. I can handle that. 2 babies and 2 postpartum moms? I don't know.
Fair.
Like, what if we both had to have C-sections and like we both had traumatic
Right.
births or like something crazy? So we thought maybe we will. Maybe I'll get pregnant, and then like around 12, 15 weeks, we could try a transfer for her or whatever. So that's kind of what we were thinking. Also because the insurance had kind of changed to where we were grandfathered in for 2025, but then regardless, we were going to lose the insurance because it was going to cap. And
Right.
so we were like, we got to do whatever we got to do. And so I did a saline sonogram or ultrasound in January, and that's where they inject all the dye to see if everything's looking good in there, check for polyps. And for me, they thought I might have a septum in my uterus,
Hmm.
and I have a reverse, like backwards uterus.
Retroverted.
Yeah. And so it just issues.
All over
And
the
so
place. Yep. Yep.
they wanted to do that first, and I was like, okay, they found she told me a polyp. She thought she found a polyp. So I was going to get scheduled for hysteroscopy. My period takes forever to start, and so I was like, this is going to delay things. And she's like, I think we can still get it all done in one cycle. So I did the hysteroscopy, and when I woke up, I was just like, oh, okay. So they found 9 polyps, and basically the doctor, yeah, told Vanessa like it was a mess in there. And like just kind of unkind. It wasn't my doctor, it was a different one that was
Right.
working one day. But and then I really had no idea, but we scheduled a follow-up with the doctor, and it was a follow-up to start Vanessa's protocol because we were going to stagger,
Hmm.
and we wanted to get financial clearance and all that stuff ready so that we were ready to go. And she actually was like, hey, I know this isn't your appointment, but I did get your pathology results, and maybe I'm just silly. And I didn't realize they were sending the polyps off to like
Yeah.
test them. I just was thinking they removed them, we're good to go. And it came back that I had endometrial hyperplasia with atypia. So basically precancer in
Hmm.
my uterus. And I mean, I did not handle it well. It felt like so scary, right? Like
Hmm.
cancer, anytime you hear that, but then
Yep.
just, oh, I thought I was maybe going to be pregnant in 2 months. And like
Yeah.
now I'm being referred to an oncologist and, going to have to do this and this. And the doctor painted sort of like a very light picture of it all. Like, oh, you can just do the treatment and you'll be back. People come back 3 to 6 months. And I'm like, perfect. Okay. So I let that kind of like calm me down. And we were like, but Vanessa's period's about to start. We want to do a cycle. And so this was like in February. And so when her period started March 1st or something, we jumped right into a cycle. I had not been to the oncologist prior, and because had to wait to get in, it's like a long period
Hmm.
of waiting.
Yeah.
And so then she ended up, first try, he stuck. And then I
Excellent.
went to the oncologist, and she painted quite a different picture of all of this. She was like, at least a year, and you need 3 cleared biopsies to go back to an embryo transfer. And, we're going to put you under. We need to do another DNC, another hysteroscopy. I want to do my own biopsies, and you need to get these MRIs. And so it was like this huge thing. And I'm like, great, we're pregnant. Like, this is so scary. Ah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we did that, and she kind of also said like, yeah, it's a little bit of a mess in there. And when those results came back, she actually said that there were portions of my uterus that were already like stage 1 cancer. So I went for the MRIs. Thankfully, everything looked good. There was no masses or anything like that that they could see. But one thing about this condition is that I've learned is in about 40 to 50% of the cases, there is also uterine cancer that's like happening alongside, but they cannot know until they take your uterus out and
Mhm.
chop it up. And so
Right.
that is a really, really scary thought. But, she felt like I would still be a good candidate for, the fertility sparing treatment, and we could just see if it worked. If not, she really recommended getting a hysterectomy. So, I mean, that is kind of really heavy. I don't want to be 40 with no uterus,
Right.
but it is what it is. My cousin had to get a hysterectomy really young. My mom has had one. And my grandmother had ovarian cancer. So this is all kind of like not like surprising that it's a
Right.
mess, but
But when
it's
it
still
happens to
sad.
you, you still you feel you can't help but feel, and we all do it with a lot of things in life. But we feel like we're
Mhm.
going to be immune to these things. I know it
Yeah,
happened to them, but this is me. It's not going to
I'm
happen to
good.
me. I'm
Yeah,
yeah, I'm good.
yeah. It was scary. She did suggest that because this is sort of fed with an overproduction of estrogen
Hmm.
and not enough progesterone. So I got the IUD, which is progesterone directly in there all the time. And she suggested losing weight because when you're overweight, you produce a different kind of estrogen that's also driving this.
Hmm.
And so I used a GLP-1 to kind of jumpstart that. And I was pretty pre-diabetic at that point. So I think the GLP-1 was also just a good idea
Hmm.
just for my health overall. And I mean, it's been fantastic. I've lost about 60 pounds. When I went in July for my second biopsy, it was cleared. And the doctor, I don't think could believe it.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. So I've got to get a couple more under my belt, but we're out of fertility insurance now. So we're saving up for our transfers. And that's the real
Right.
scary part is
Sure.
$5,000 for one shot, but and with my uterus, which may or may not like work properly, but so I'm trying to get as healthy as possible. But that's kind of why she got to go first. And I
Right.
think if I had known the extent of what could be going on with my body before, we probably would have held off. I'm glad we didn't because it
Hmm.
has been working out, but it was really scary there for a while and it was really
Yeah.
hard. Switching over. I see a lot of people, and this is something that I think is really important. There's not a lot that we can say as a queer couple who we both have uteruses. Like, I try to find the silver lining in things. And for me, this really was a silver lining because our end goal is to have a baby and is to be moms. And so if I was with somebody who didn't have a uterus, and yeah, it might be easier, it might be cheaper, of course, but at the same time, we still wouldn't be parents because I would have to wait for all of this healing and then hope that I
Right.
didn't, end up needing a hysterectomy and then a surrogate, which is a whole other thing. So in this case, I think it was hard for me to let it go because it's been my dream, but I had to really keep my eye on we want to be parents. It's not
Right.
just about I want to be pregnant. I want to be the one and her
Yeah.
saying like, well, I really don't want to be the one,
Right.
And so it was hard going through it in the beginning because I was like, oh, I want this to be me.
Yeah.
But the further we got into it when I started seeing him in there and realizing like that's my DNA in there that she's growing and her DNA is like having an effect on his and like epigenetics is really
Of
cool.
course. Yes, it
And so it
is.
got easier as she was more uncut. She was throwing up the first 24 weeks,
Oh
almost
gosh.
nonstop. It was so bad. I'm
Oh.
like, yeah, this is great. This is okay for you to do it.
Yes, I'm not sad that it's not me. But the other part of that is if you weren't two women trying to go down this path and making the decision to have all of the testing done that you did and make sure that you may never have known until it was too late to know that
Mhm.
you had precancerous and cancerous cells
Yeah.
in your uterus.
Especially me, I tend to ignore.
Any
Now that
red flags?
yes, when I looked it up, I'm like, okay, I should have known that something was up. I have all these symptoms, but I also started my menstrual cycle when I was 9. That's one
Hmm.
of the big things is, starting your period super early and never having a child and you're being over 35. So that's another
Right.
like risk factor. So I wish things like this were really talked about more. It's definitely there's information out there once you know, but I literally had no idea they were going to like send off the polyps,
Right.
and
Yes.
so it really floored me. So I've used my TikTok a couple of times to try to talk about signs and different things because I think sometimes as women, we get ignored a lot of times when we have symptoms like, oh, that's normal, that's PCOS, that's just, you just have bad periods or whatever. But then also we tend to downplay things that are happening too sometimes
Absolutely.
because, whether it's because it's scary or you just hope that
Yeah.
eternal optimist, I guess.
Right. Right. And it is that, we always talk about kids being invincible or thinking they're invincible, but I don't think we're immune to that. I think everybody has this invincibility feeling like that's going to happen to somebody else. It's not going to happen to
Mhm.
me.
Yeah,
And this is no different,
yeah,
right?
for sure. So hopefully I'm on the up and up and we can transfer within the year, 2 years at max. But I think if it doesn't work, we will maybe just go back to her. It seems like her body, I mean, she had like the perfect, aside from the sickness, which you can't really help, but no gestational diabetes, no hypertension, no preeclampsia, no, she had the easy, I mean, she went from 3 to complete when in labor in about 2 hours, and it
Wow.
threw everyone off. And everyone kept saying, like, I'm pretty sure she's in labor. And we'd been like watching all the stuff, and she was going to try to go unmedicated, and she ended up pretty much going unmedicated. And then they let her get an epidural right before pushing, and it caused a lot of issues, and like it was very scary. But other than that, yeah, I mean, she just had like a pretty easy breezy time. And the
Yeah.
so I think her body's built well for pregnancy. So if
There
mine
you
doesn't
go.
work, maybe some therapy for the finality of it all, but
Sure.
I think I
And
would
and
be
I
okay.
think that that's a responsible reaction to that because
Mhm.
too many people focus on the fact that you should be okay with how things go because look at what you have.
Mhm.
And it's not an either or situation. I can be grateful for the family that I have and at the
Mhm.
same time mourn the experience that didn't happen or the way that my
Yeah.
body reacted or all kinds of things. And I get so frustrated, when people say to me, "Oh, and I had to have a cesarean and but that's okay because everybody tells me I should just be glad I have a healthy baby." Hold on. Just
Yeah.
because you're glad you have a healthy baby has no bearing on the fact that you're allowed to mourn the fact that you wanted a vaginal birth and you had to have a cesarean or whatever it is,
Yeah.
medicated and unmedicated or whatever. We're
Mhm.
allowed to feel both things. And so for you to acknowledge that and say, well, maybe some therapy, maybe what
Yeah,
I'll need is to talk to a professional to help me process these feelings because you are allowed to have both feelings.
for sure. Yeah. And it's still like, even sometimes I'm just the fear in me, I'm thinking, okay, what if I do get pregnant and then I have gestational diabetes? I've got preeclampsia. They have to induce me. We have to do every, intervention under the sun. Like then I'm like thinking maybe it would just be better to not even experience all of that, because I do think that would break my heart maybe even more than
Right.
not being able to carry. And I've been quite disappointed just in like my body at times over this year. And I don't want that to continue. But I think, I'm willing to like risk that too, just to get that closure too. I mean, that could be really the final thing that I do with my uterus before it gets removed. And what a sweet thing to like experience something really positive after it caused me a lot of like issues my whole life.
Right.
Right before getting removed. But that still remains to be seen. We'll figure it out as we go. But right now we're just super happy with, you know, our lives and how I just we still can't believe it. Like she'll look at me sometimes and she's like, "Can you believe like we have a baby?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm 39 and yes, I wasn't having infertility issues in a sense, but kind of just for lack of being able to
Sure.
become a parent. But 25-year-old me crying at someone's baby shower and like heartbroken would just not even believe that this is like real life. And so we're just so grateful for
Good for
everything.
you.
And yeah.
I'm going to let you go, but before I do, can you please tell me? I know that he's fresh, he's new, but there's got to be something about it that's your absolute favorite about parenting Julian.
I think it's that he's starting to know like who we are, and like somebody came over. We were really cautious. I mean, he was born in the winter,
Hmm.
and so everyone kind of had to have a few shots if they wanted to meet him in the first couple of
Yeah.
months. And so we didn't have a ton of visitors. We also wanted that time to just bond with just the three of us. And
Excellent.
somebody came over and he was crying, and when I took him back, he calmed down.
Oh,
And yeah, it was really sweet. And I, not that like he wouldn't have calmed down with them either, because they love him so much, and he
of
would have.
course.
But I think in general, after parenting children who have been through such a traumatic thing, but they long for not you,
Hmm.
it's really incredible to see that bond with, Vanessa. And he knows her probably, I mean, of course, even more than me. He just smells her. And like, so watching him just calm with her and like
Hmm.
be on her and then calm with me now too. And that is probably my favorite thing, because we are that like primal thing for him.
Hmm.
And I've seen it so much with other children,
Hmm.
and it's not me, and that's good. It shouldn't be, but having that experience with our child now, where we are like the thing that they want and they will always want. And so we're just so thankful to be able to make that like secure attachment
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
with like him, and just seeing him like light up. He smiled recently. So like
Oh,
all of those things, like
yeah.
it's just so sweet.
Huge wins. Your heart really loves that. Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense to me. I want to take a moment. Thank you very much for spending this
Yeah.
time chatting with me today and telling me and my listeners your story. You are an inspiration, and I'm sending all of that baby dust your way for a healthy uterus and a smooth and easy transfer. And we're going to throw an easy pregnancy, labor, and
Yes.
birth in there for you too. How's that? I'll get
Unmedicated. Yeah. Perfect.
unmedicated, the whole thing. Let's just do it all. You got all that baby dust.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. As a queer individual with colonial lineage, I want to first acknowledge the land upon which I live and work. Being from what is now known as Burlington, Ontario, I recognize the original ancestry of these lands as they span from Lake Ontario to the Niagara Escarpment and beyond. These lands are steeped in Indigenous history that benefits my community every day. The territory is mutually covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement between the Iroquois Confederacy, the Ojibwe, and other allied nations to peaceably share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. I would like to acknowledge that the land on which I stand is part of the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit. The land dictates everything about our ways of being. Particularly, the land teaches us about fluidity. Concepts of the binary system and heteropatriarchy were imposed by the colonials who were, at the same time, removing children from their homes, families, and all that was familiar to them. These same children were divided by the only two prescribed binaries recognized by the settlers, and they were forced to conform to a performative, gendered falsehood. The land doesn't operate under binary thinking. It is diverse, complex, and unpredictable at times. Rather, the land holds us and all of our remarkable pasts and identities. Every organism and spirit has a purpose. It is from this understanding that I strive to live and grow. Thank you for joining me today on the Becoming Baby Ready podcast. If you have a story that you'd like to share, or you know someone who might, if you're a professional who works in the capacity of helping people start and grow their families, and you identify as being a part of the 2S LGBTQIA plus community yourself, then please don't hesitate to reach out. We always have room for more stories to share, and there's always more learning to do.